All right, in this lesson we're going to talk about two calculations that we use when it comes to inventory. We are going to talk about the raw materials inventory turnover and then days sales in raw materials inventory. And so let's start with the raw materials inventory turnover. The way that we calculate this one is by taking the raw materials used divided by the average raw material inventory. Now what confuses a lot of students is the average raw material inventory. And so most calculations would say that the average raw materials inventory, if it's not actually given to you, is you take the beginning, add the ending, and divide by 2. And so let's do this problem together. We've got V-store over here with raw materials used of 85,500, beginning raw material inventory of 8,000, ending inventory of 9,000. So their raw materials started with $8,000 in the beginning of the year. At the end, they had $9,000 of ending raw material inventory still in stock. They used $85,500 worth of raw materials. So we take raw materials used, which is 85,500. Okay, and we divide that by the average raw materials inventory, and like I said, we take the if it's not given to us, we take the beginning plus the end and we divide it by 2. Okay, so 8 plus 9 gives us 17. Yeah, 17 divided by 2 gets us 8,500. Okay, so 8,500 goes there. So 85,500 divided by 8,500 gets us 1006. So what are we saying? We're saying that their materials turn over 10 times a year. Okay, so 10 times a year their inventory is turning over, which means it's probably being in stock for about a little over a month, and then after a little over the month, you really should have turned all of your stock over by then. So another way that you can think of it is that if I don't purchase anything, and today I purchased a whole bunch of raw materials, okay, then in a little over about a month, I'm going to have no more materials and I have to replace it. And I'm going to do that 10 sequential times. Okay? Now we don't do it that way, but that's what we're getting from this calculation, is that we're turning the materials over about 10 times a year. All right, our next one is days sales in raw materials. And this reveals how much raw material inventory is available in terms of the number of days sales. It is a measure of how long it takes raw materials to be used in the production. So the way that we calculate it is we take the ending raw materials inventory divided by the raw materials used during the year, and we multiply it by 365. Now, if I have some smart Alex out there, you could put 366 in the leap years. You can put 365, or you can put 360, and there is a reason why a lot of people put 360. That's just to smooth it all out, to assume that every single month has 30 days. But so we use 365. So let's start off with ending raw materials inventory. Ending raw material inventory was $9,000 at the end of the year. And we divide that by raw materials used. Raw materials used was 85,500. And we're going to multiply that by 365. And at the end of the day, we are going to get 38.4 days. Okay? So what are we saying there? We're saying that over the course of the year, we're using $85,500 worth of raw materials. At the end of the year, we have $9,000 worth of materials left. If we don't replenish it within 38.4 days, we're going to run out. Now, are we actually going to run out? Probably, probably not, maybe, maybe so. Okay? This just gives us an average. This tells us that based on historical records, we probably should be out in about 38 days. Okay? In about a month, a little over a month, we're going to be out of our raw materials, and that's when we're going to have to buy more raw materials. So if we're thinking ahead, and let's say we know that it's going to take 45 days to get raw materials, we better think about ordering them now, because we only have 38 left. Okay, so that's why we use it, is so that we understand how long does it actually take to get our raw materials in, and how long do we have left before we run out. And this is a production issue because we don't want to keep our production from producing anymore because we ran out of raw materials. So this is an important calculation to make so that if we need to bring in raw materials, we know when to bring raw materials in so that we don't have an idle factory. So 2 things that we learned today: raw materials inventory turnover. How many times does our inventory on average turn over in a year? In this case, 10 times. And then days sales and raw materials inventory. How many days of inventory do we have left before we need to bring in more? We have about 38.4. And again, this is average, but this doesn't mean that it's actually going to be 38. And the reason why is, let's say we did 85,500 last year, but we used $70,000 worth of it towards the end of the year, which means we only used $15,000 between the beginning of the year and, let's say, third quarter. This is going to stretch us out for a while, but then once we hit that fourth quarter, we're going to need a ton of materials because we used 70-ish towards the end of the year rather than spreading evenly over the year. So raw materials inventory, raw materials used divided by average raw materials inventory, and then days sales in raw materials inventory. We take ending raw material inventory divided by raw materials used and multiply it by 3.